There's a coffee tin on my workbench right now with 4 rusted bolts sitting in it, soaking in something you've probably already got under your kitchen sink. Give it 12 hours and every one of those bolts is going to come out looking like it was cut yesterday. Not painted over, not covered up. Actually clean, bare steel, ready to go back in and hold for another 40 years. It didn't cost me a cent. And it's not the trick I'm going to show you today, because today I've got something even better. Something that'll strip a rusted solid tractor bolt, a seized gate hinge, or a whole set of hand tools back to bare metal in a single afternoon using a bucket, a bit of washing powder from the laundry, and a battery charger that's probably already hanging on your shed wall. My name's Macca. I've spent the better part of my life in a shed not much bigger than a dunny, fixing whatever broke on the property that week. Utes, fence wire, water pumps, my old man's tools before they were mine. I have never once in 40 years paid a bloke to sandblast anything. And I want to show you why, because what the hardware shops are selling you for $30 a can is not what they're telling you it is. You've seen the Rust Converter spray. Bright orange can, sits on the shelf next to the WD-40. Sprays on black, dries hard, looks like the rust is gone. Here's what they don't tell you on the label. Most of those products are just a tinted primer sitting on top of the rust. The rust is still under there, still eating the metal, just quieter about it now because it's in the dark. Give it 2 wet winters and it's bubbling up through the paint again, and you're back at the shop buying another can. And if the job's too far gone for a spray, the next quote you get is from a bloke with a sandblaster who wants $200 to do what I'm about to show you for less than the price of a carton. So let's get into what rust actually is. Because if you understand this part, everything else makes sense. Rust is iron reacting with oxygen and water. That's it. That's the whole recipe. Iron oxide. And here's the bit that matters if you live anywhere near the coast in this country, which most of us do. Salt water is what chemists call an electrolyte. It carries the reaction faster. That's why a ute parked 40 minutes from the beach rusts through its chassis in half the time of the same ute out west. It's not bad luck. It's chemistry. And once you know that, you stop blaming the manufacturer and start doing something about it. Right, here's what you're going to do. You need a plastic bucket or a tub. Not metal, has to be plastic, or it'll interfere with what we're doing. You need washing soda, which is sold as laundry booster in the supermarket, not baking soda. Washing soda, they're different things and only one of them works for this. You need a battery charger, the kind that's already sitting on a shelf in most sheds in this country. And you need a scrap piece of mild steel, an old bit of rebar, a length of flat bar, anything rusty and disposable will do, because this piece is going to sacrifice itself so your good tool doesn't have to. Fill the bucket with water and stir in about a tablespoon of washing soda per litre. Doesn't need to be exact. This isn't baking a cake. Hang your scrap steel in the water so it doesn't touch the sides or the bottom. Now here's the one detail that trips people up. So listen close. You connect the black clip from your charger to the rusty part you're cleaning, and the red clip to the sacrificial scrap steel. Black to the part you want clean, red to the part you're happy to throw away. Get that backwards and you'll actually make the rust worse instead of better. Make sure the 2 pieces of metal never touch each other in the water, or you'll short the whole thing out. Turn the charger on low, and within a few minutes, you'll see bubbles coming off both pieces of metal. That's normal. That's the reaction doing its job. But it does mean you need to do this out in the shed with the door open, not in a closed room, because it's putting off a bit of hydrogen gas and you don't want that building up near a naked flame or a pilot light. Common sense stuff, but I'll say it anyway because I'd rather you roll your eyes at me than end up on the news. One thing I want to be straight with you about, because a bloke wrote in after my last video and pulled me up on something similar, and he was dead right to. Your scrap steel needs to be mild steel, plain old rusty steel, the kind you'd find in a Besser block frame or an old Star Picket. Do not use stainless steel as your sacrificial piece. Stainless in this reaction throws off a nasty compound called hexavalent chromium, and you do not want to be breathing that in your shed. Plain, rusty, mild steel only. If in doubt, use a bit of it that's already rusting. That's basically a guarantee it's not stainless. Leave it running anywhere from 4 hours to overnight, depending on how bad the rust is. What you'll pull out won't look clean straight away. It'll be covered in a soft black sludge. That's not more rust, that's actually good news. That black coating is the rust being converted to a different compound, and it wipes straight off with a wire brush or a scrubbing pad. And underneath it is bare, grey, honest steel. Not painted, not covered. Actually clean. This is the exact method museum conservators use on excavated iron artifacts because, unlike grinding or sandblasting, it doesn't eat into metal that isn't rusted. It only pulls the rust off and leaves the good steel exactly where it was. Now, here's a mistake I see blokes make constantly. They pull the part out, admire the shiny steel, and walk away. Bare steel out of that bucket will start flashing rust again within a few hours, especially with any bit of humidity around, which in this country is most days. You need to seal it straight away. What we've always used is raw linseed oil, rubbed in with a rag while the metal's still a bit damp. Or if you can get your hands on a bit of lanolin straight off the back of a sheep, or bought as a grease, that's even better. Because lanolin's what's keeping the rain off a sheep's back in the first place, and it'll do the same job on your steel. For smaller stuff, nuts, bolts, hand tools, the hinges off a gate, you don't need the electricity at all. Citric acid, the stuff sold in the supermarket for pickling and cleaning kettles, dissolved in warm water, about 50 grams to the litre. Drop your rusty bits in, leave them 12 to 24 hours, give them a scrub with an old toothbrush partway through. Same result, no charger required. And if you want to do it the way it was done before either of those things existed on a property, molasses. 1 part molasses to 9 parts water in an old drum, and you leave your parts sitting in there for 2 to 3 weeks. It's slow, it smells like a distillery, but it's gentle enough that vintage tractor blokes still use it today on parts they don't want to risk damaging with anything stronger. That one's not mine. That one's my old man's and his old man's before him. While I'm on the subject, let me clear up something that gets repeated at every barbecue in this country. Someone always reckons you can drop a rusty spanner in a bottle of soft drink and the rust just falls off. It's phosphoric acid doing the work, same family of chemical as what's in some of those converter sprays, and it's a real thing. But it's so diluted in a can of soft drink that on anything more than a light surface rust, you'll be sitting there a week for a result the citric acid soak gives you overnight. It's not nothing, but it's nowhere near what people claim at the barbecue, and I'd rather tell you straight than let you waste a slab of drink finding that out yourself. I'll be honest with you on something else too, because my wife will read the comments on this one and hold me to it. I still get overruled on where the electrolysis bucket lives. She does not want it near the back step where she hangs the washing, on account of the smell when the charger's running, so it lives around the side of the shed now, out of sight, out of mind. And that's where yours should probably live too if you want a quiet life. Now, why does any of this actually matter beyond saving you a few dollars on spray cans? Corrosion isn't a small problem in this country. Industry estimates put the cost to the Australian economy at tens of billions of dollars every year. In machinery, infrastructure, vehicles, all of it eaten away quietly by the same reaction happening in that coffee tin on my bench. And it's not just a cost problem. A rusted tow ball, a rusted trailer coupling, a rusted chain on a gate that's meant to hold stock in, that's not just an inconvenience. That's the kind of thing that fails at the worst possible moment. Staying on top of rust on your property isn't fussiness. It's the same instinct that had blokes walking their fence lines every week for 150 years before us. So here's your job for the weekend. Grab a plastic bucket, a tablespoon of washing soda per litre of water, a scrap bit of mild steel, and the battery charger off your shed wall. Black clip to the rusty part, red clip to the scrap. Don't let them touch. Leave it running with the door open overnight. In the morning, wire brush the sludge off, seal it with linseed oil or lanolin while it's still a touch damp, and you've got a part that'll outlast the one you would have bought new. For the smaller stuff, 50 grams of citric acid to the litre, overnight soak, done. Total cost, if you don't already own a charger, is about the price of 1 tank of fuel. If you do own one, like most of us do, it's about $7 in an afternoon. Tell me in the comments what's rusting away in your shed right now that you've been meaning to get to. And whether you're a bucket man or a molasses man, I read every one of them. Next time, I'll show you the trick my old man used to stop tools sweating and rusting overnight inside a closed-up shed without spending a cent on one of those plug-in dehumidifiers. It's a trick involving a bag of something you'll find in your garage right now that most people throw straight in the bin. Until then, keep the rust off and keep the shed door open while she's running.